So really the message of not two is whatever pops up in two-ness or as a dualistic movement is not you. It gets negated or inquired into as not your nature, yeah? So when there's a thought that comes up, essentially there's a sense of seeing that thought or being the one who sees that thought, and that puts you into a seat of two-ness. So there's me, the seer, of the thinking. So there's thinking and then me, which is two, subject and object. And this is a message quite simply and clearly saying you're not whatever arises as two-ness. And it's beautiful because it highlights a very important movement in spiritual seeking, which is that there's an idea that I am going to become something. And the something I'm going to become I'm not, nor am I the I who is trying to become. Because the I who is trying to become something cannot become that whatever idea it has. The head wants to, the body and the mind, of which it's a part, that's one system, those are not two separate things, the body and the mind. They have a real urge and desire to become not a body and mind, in many ways. And the body and the mind can't do that, because it's of a dualistic nature. Its nature is subject-object. So when you look at the words not two, it's a simple negation of what pops up as two-ness. Now objects pop up because of the subject. There's a sense of subjectivity as a me. There's a me, and then there's a bunch of objects, which we call, let's say, world, yeah? Those objects have no inherent existence without the sense of subjectivity. The sense of subjectivity being the sense of me, or you, yeah? I, let's say. After the I thought, everything else appears. So, that I thought, or me, let's say, is often trying to become a not me, or it's trying to become a not body. And it can't do it, but that does not stop it from its movement of trying to get out of itself. And in 12-step recovery, they say self cannot get out of self. So a lot of people end up coming to this message of not two after a lot of spiritual failures, let's say. That's how I came to it. Yeah, was a bunch of spiritual practice and ideas of trying to become something and constantly failing at becoming that thing. Let's say constantly failing at not suffering. I thought I was going to spiritually practice myself into a point of not suffering. And then that failed. Yeah? So that opened up a question, really. It opened up something that the message of not two highlights really well. I, as a body, was trying to get to a place where there was no suffering. But because this is a dualistic thing, meaning it's taking itself to be the subject of a bunch of objects, it's in this dualistic relationship, and within that dualistic relationship, there's good and bad, yeah? I thought that I, as a body, could get out of that dualism. That I could get out of that suffering. Now that failed, yeah? And it's great that it failed, because then something else came in which said you're not that which is trying to get out of itself. And that made a lot of sense to me. So whatever pops up as two-ness gets negated rather than affirmed or chased after. Like my head always wants to get out of whatever it's in. Yeah, it just squirms that way. It just wants to get out of whatever it feels it's in. But that right there is a perfect duality. In many ways, it's trying to get out of itself. Yeah, J is trying to get out of J. And both the message of not two and recovery say J cannot get out of J as J, which is great news. So rather than going with the head when it says, okay, I have to do all of this stuff to become a not head, it gets negated as what I am. And then because you are what you're looking for, you land into what you already are. Yeah, which is let's say open spacious awareness. You can't put a name on what you are because it would be nameless and formless, but all we've got is language. So we'll just say open, spacious awareness for now. So there was tons of effort trying to make this body into an ethereal body that was never going to feel the back and forth of happiness and sadness, and that failed. And then this message said, well, whatever pops up as two, which is the sense of you, you are not that sense. And then why did it fail at becoming always happy? Because it's a dualistic system. So it's going to be happy and then it's going to flip to sadness, let's say. Yeah, it's going to be up, down, left, right, whatever, salt, pepper. There's going to be a duality there when, as far as this system is concerned. So this movement of not two is really a negation more than anything. It's a negating of what arises as two-ness. So the sense of me is taken to be a subject, and the mental system has the me as the ultimate subject. Yeah, in AA they would say you have to stop playing God, which would mean that there's something playing God, and when they say you have to stop playing God, they're saying you are what's playing God, yeah? Your head is playing God right now with this message, with everything around you. It's interpreting everything that's around you from its subjective point, meaning it's playing God, yeah? It's perceiving. You're not doing that. It's just a mechanical perception of what's around you based only on the past. So your head is doing that, meaning the head is playing God. Now in recovery they say you have to stop playing God. But the message of not two highlights a different thing. Well, not so different, but it has a bit of a different language. What is playing God? You are not that. Now that brings a lot of relief because the mental system is playing God with everything. It's playing God with spiritual practice. And when it hears a message like not two, it immediately starts to play God with this message by saying, I get it. I am the open, spacious awareness. That is the playing of God. Yeah? So the head is doing this because it claims everything that it comes in contact with. And if we don't see it, then we're living under the demand or commands of a false God, as Ramana would say. The false God being the mental system. So in your experience right now, whatever is going on around you, your head is claiming it. And it's perceiving and interpreting what's going on right now. You can see it happen, yeah? And it will do it with everything. And that interpretation and the perception that's being put on everything that's happening around you right now is a conditioned thing. It's a conditioned movement. You're not doing it, and nor can you stop doing it. Yeah? Because there's no doer in the middle of it. The mental system is just doing it. It's interpreting everything around you. It's labeling it. It's seeing it through the senses. And then it's saying that there's a you in front of that interpretation. So there's a bunch of interpretation, mental interpretation happening, and then the head already has you as a you, the I, yeah? So interpretation, and then the mental system says that's my interpretation. That puts you into a seat of duality, yeah? Two-ness. Interpretation, the one interpretation is arising to, which means you're not the interpretation of life, nor are you the one who's seemingly seeing the interpretation of life. That's beautiful. Because a lot of our interpretations of life make things super uncomfortable. And in a very interesting way, the mental system is playing God with everything. With everything. Like I noticed this sometimes. Years ago, my head would enter something. Let's say therapy or something, yeah? And the mental system would enter that thing, and under the oh man, this is in a way how the head can have you. My head would enter into something like therapy, knowing, yeah, there was a mental knowing that it wasn't going to work. And in a way, I was going into that therapy and the head was saying, this is not going to work. And if that was true, which the head was making it super true, that would reify a quality or a core belief of myself that nothing works for me. This is one of the ways the mental system will have you and how it plays God. It will enter into something. So I'm using the example of therapy just as a general example. It will enter into something with the view that that thing is not going to work. So that is the head playing God with something, yeah? That's quite obvious. And then when it doesn't work, the head will go, see, nothing works for me. And that is how a person gets isolated, essentially, by the mental system. So if they're taking that mental system to be them, then that is continually how everything's going to go. That is amazing to me. I mean, I've talked to people about inquiry, self-inquiry, and the message of not to, and before they have done anything, yeah, they'll already say, well, that's not going to work. So what is that but the head playing God with something? The head is already saying, that is not going to work for me. Now the person, or the not person, let's say, the awareness is listening to that mental system, and that mental system is keeping them completely confounded. Meaning it's keeping them completely in a cycle. That's very interesting, yeah? So if they're identified with the head that's playing God, that head is going into things with already the interpretation that those things are not going to work. And if those things don't work, then the story of the head, which is nothing works for me, will be confirmed. Huh? So if that is not something playing God in your life, then I don't really know what is. Because to me, that is like a perfect view of that. Yeah. Now you are not the mental system which is dictating what's going to work and what's not going to work. But something is playing God in your life. So in AA, they would say you have to stop playing God. And then the message of not to highlights it even more. What is playing God is not you. Yes? There's a bunch of things, let's say self-inquiry or whatever, as an object, and then there's a subjectivity which is judging that object already, without even investigating that at all. And its subjective stance is based on its view or its interpretation, which is only based on the past, by the way. Only based on the past. Yeah? The sense of self can only know what's happening now from a past point of view. It cannot interpret like new, let's say. So if we're listening to that mental system, yeah, and more so, the inquiry is in who is the mental system arising to. Because if those thoughts are your thoughts, then you're going to be super dedicated to those thoughts, despite the fact that you're not doing those thoughts. That those thoughts are a conditioned movement based on only the past. This is why people will stay in the same pattern of a core belief for their whole life. Nothing will work for me, let's say. What is that but a thought based solely on the sense of me? But you are not that me. And if you're identified as that me, then you're identified with those thoughts. And if you're identified with those thoughts are going to play God in your life, and in many ways are going to crunch that life down into a very isolated, small life as a body, let's say. Yeah? So it's very important to see, because listening, open listening, which is not grabbing on or grasping any movement, let's say mental, physical, emotional, or whatever, that would be, let's say, towards our nature. But listening to one thing and calling that thing us, meaning me, yeah? So if there's a mental system that's going, interpreting everything, yeah? Part of that mental system is presupposed to be my mental system, which means I'm super dedicated to that mental system. It doesn't matter what that mental system presents. When it plays God, I'm going with it. Yeah? So there could be something, let's say, this happens in these talks a lot. People come to a talk like this, and we talk about negation, essentially. So it's seeing what you're not and negating. Now, the mental system always wants to become something. It wants to do the opposite. It wants to acquire, yeah? So as soon as people hear that this is about negation, it's about you are what you're looking for. It's not about becoming something. The mental system interprets that as, oh, I want to become something, and then it has that person gone, essentially, and chasing on to the next thing. The reason I do these talks is because the chasing on to the next thing won't work, because you are what you're looking for, and what's chasing on, looking for the next thing, will never find the next thing, because there is no next thing. It's chasing an empty idea. So, it's important to see that something is playing God in your life. And it ain't you. It's a mental interpretation of life. And it's a mental interpretation of anything that comes in contact. So if you look at spirituality, the head will play God maybe more with that than anything else. It will interpret and perceive spiritual ideas. It will take those and morph it around its own story of core beliefs. And when that happens, then the search is on and will go on forever, because the mental system will try to become something that it can't become. It's like the body will always try to become a not body, but it can't become a not body as a body, yeah? Because this is a dualistic thing. So really the only movement is a negation in many ways, and otherwise the chase will go on, because the mental system is constantly interpreting based on becoming. So really it's a listening to, yeah? If I'm listening to the mental system, then I'm identified as that mental system. So if there's thinking, when there is thinking, which there will be, if I'm identified solely with the thinking, which means I'm identified solely with the body, then I am going to go with that thinking. And that thinking is going to be presented as an ultimate subjectivity, meaning this is the truth. Yeah? But that truth is based only on the interpretation of the mental system. So if I'm identified as it, and it's presented to me as my truth, yes, then I'm going with that truth, despite how insane the thinking might be. I know that through experience, because I lived a lot of my life like that, and that's why I would end up drinking. So when we talk about listening, we're not talking about listening to. So our nature as open awareness or open listening is a non-directional listening. It's not dedicated to one thing. I'm not listening just to the mental. Yeah? It's open. It's not grasping or attached to any contents of experience. And that is very important, because as soon as that listening goes in towards the mental system is interpreting life as a God. Yeah? In many ways, the head thinks it's God. It is the ultimate subject of all the objects. But its godly interpretation is based only on the past, and only on the past of its experience. It can't know anything beyond that. And it will play games with the biggest thing, let's say, yeah? There could be something that could totally help an individual, like we were talking about before, and the head will enter that thing under the precipice or the story that this is not going to work. Why? In order to confirm the idea that nothing works for me, because I'm super unique and nothing works for me. It might work for everybody else, but it doesn't work for me. So I'm going to do it in order to confirm that belief. But that belief is not your belief. That belief in many ways is having you, and it's keeping you in that cycle through the identification with it. So a lot of the movement in spiritual practice is, okay, I'm going to change or morph that belief. And in my experience, good luck with that. Because that belief is not going to budge. It's going to maybe put a different mask on, but it's going to have the same core belief. And if you're tied to that core belief by listening to the mental system rather than sitting back into open listening, you are going to play under its command. That in many ways is the problem of alcoholism. Something is playing God in our lives, the mental. We are dedicated to that system. It doesn't matter how insane it is. It makes life super uncomfortable, and then I want out of that life, so I start drinking or drugging. I can't make it any clearer than that. At least today. That's how it comes through. So, a lot of times we feel we're having thoughts when in fact we're being had by thoughts. How are we being had by thinking? Through our dedication as the thinker of those thoughts. As the dedication. People will say, oh, I have no belief in a religion, but the head is God to them. So if there's a praying and a ultimate alliance to the mental system, that mental system runs on core beliefs. Yeah? That mental system runs on core beliefs based on the conditioning of the past. Those core beliefs, in my humble experience, do not change. And that example of going into a therapy office with the idea that this is not going to work, I did not see that the head had me in a position, in not a good position. I would go into that office saying, this is not going to work. And because of that, of course, the head negates it ever working or it having any influence at all. And in doing that, it reifies a core belief that nothing works for me. Now, I thought I was doing that and I was right. No, I'm right. Nothing works for me. And then the message of not to says that all of that thinking and the one who it arises to is not you. So you are being controlled by something, or driven, as they would say in the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book. You are being driven, and you're not the driver. And what's driving you is only driving you through the identification as it. Yeah? So if I'm identified as the mental system, when it presents a great idea, what I think is a very firm idea that nothing will work for me because I'm so unique and different, then that head has me in that position. And that life will be lived from that position, and that position sucks, trust me. I've lived in that position for a long time. And it sidetracked tons of stuff in this life. Tons of stuff. Yeah? And it's happened, I've seen it happen in talks. People come to a talk and they say, that sounds great, but that won't work for me. So what is that but the mental system putting them into the position of uniqueness and nothing will work for me? Yes? Now they're not doing that. That is a conditioned movement of their head, nothing will work for me. That's a belief. But they're not doing that. They're being had by that belief. In a way, that belief is keeping them stuck. How? Because they're identified as the thinker of the thought. They're identified as the haver of the belief. So not two is pointing out you're not the belief, nor are you the one who's seeing the belief, meaning the believer. You're not the eyes, nor are you the seer. You're not the ears, nor are you the hearer. There's an open field of listening which is ever present, open, non-grasping, not attached to any of these movements. There where you sit, or the not you sits, whatever words you want to use. And in that way, that conditioning will move through and you will see the individuality. Yeah? Not through doing a bunch of stuff, but by negating what you're not. Meaning what is heard is not what is hearing. Yeah? There's a hearing, but there is no hearer. There's doing, but there is no doer. There's thinking, but there is no thinker. So the investigation is into the thinker. I'm just going to look at the thing here. Explains, okay, hey, Kay, I sent you a message about that thing. Maybe a different email or something. But yes, it explains the pattern of habit loops. So, habit loops. The thing is that the mental system is habituated. So a lot of times, there's this sense that I'm going to change those habit loops. And that's what failed to me. I'm not the habit loops. Yeah? And then by not being the habit loops, the faith gets pulled out of them and they shift. Meaning they lose life. Because the thought system and these beliefs only get life from what's before it, the open listening, yeah? As soon as that open listening is taken to grab onto something, that thing has life. Yeah. Go ahead. Oh, Samyam, you made your way back. Is the head the ego? I don't really use the term ego. Brittany. Oh, Brittany, I think you've been here before. I don't use the term ego so much because people I listen to don't really use it. But it's who has the ego, yeah? Or who does the sense of ego arise to? That's the inquiry really, is the sense of me. So when like years ago when I was like trying stuff because I was going nuts, yeah? It wasn't that the head would already have me in the position of this isn't going to work and all of that, yeah? That's not really the problem. The problem is the identification with that thinking. So let's say the identification with the thought, yeah, the thought process, which comes through the idea me. So really, it's important to look at the me. Because if there's a me, which Buddhism says there is no self, and if you read any kind of Ramana or Nisargadatta, which you don't need to really, but essentially there's a thought, me or I, you are not that thought. But if you're taking yourself to be that thought, then you are tied to what comes after that, which is all the contents of, let's say, the ego, yeah? Now, the ego doesn't have a life. It's not alive. It comes and goes. Yeah, it's an appearance within the open space of what's listening. Yeah? So, a lot of people will say an ego death and stuff, but an ego is not alive. It's not a thing. Yeah? So if there is no self, if there is no me at the center of all of the thinking, then that brings up a lot of questioning of what all this suffering was, yeah? Because all of that mental movement, let's say ego, just because the term is there, is conditioned. Meaning I'm not doing it. It's like a programmed conditioning all based on the past. So what I'm taking to be me is actually just conditioned movement. It's like an appearance in space of conditioning. So the head sees this form and it says bicycle. It sees this form and it says computer, essentially. That's conditioned, yeah? The mental system only knows that based on past relationship with that, let's say. Yes? So that is what would form, let's say, an ego. Now, some of that past conditioning has us in the place of I'm terrible, or nothing will work for me. Yeah? This is all based on past information for some reason. It's conditioned that way. So there's a sense that I'm doing that thinking, for sure. There's a sense as an individual of being the doer of the ego. But the ego is a conditioned movement, and there is no doer, there is no self. That's why this message is very interesting. If there is no doer of all of these thoughts which seem to be making me uncomfortable, and if I'm not the me, then who are these thoughts referencing? Yeah? Who are these thoughts referencing? They're referencing me. But I'm not that because there is no self in the middle of it, which disentangles you from the movement of thinking, essentially, or belief, or whatever's going to get presented from the conditioning. Because the conditioning of the mental system gets super uncomfortable, especially if it's my conditioning. Yeah? So really, it's looking at whose ego is that? Because there's a sense, there's mental movement going on. As you're not doing it, it's a conditioned movement. When my head was saying this isn't going to work, but I'm going to do it in order to confirm that it's not going to work, that's all based on a conditioned belief that I'm unique and nothing works for me, but it works for everybody else because I'm so ultimately special. Yeah? That's all based on that belief. That belief is there for some reason, conditioned, yes? But I'm not doing that belief, nor am I doing the thought that this is not going to work for me, nor am I doing the movement of I'm going to do it to confirm that idea that this isn't going to work for me, or that I know everything about this, yeah? It's like the inquiry example when I give talks sometimes. People will hear about self-inquiry and then they'll say immediately, oh, well, that's just going to blast me off into space. Without any investigation or anything. No sadhana, nothing. Their just head goes right off immediately. That's not going to work. Or that's going to make me feel this way. Or that's going to do this. Or all of those ideas which are judging the thing which they have no idea about, yes, is driving them away from it without them even tasting it. Yeah. It's like somebody being like, taste this food, and you're like, that tastes terrible. But you haven't even tried the food, yeah? So it's like, this is what the mental system does if we're listening to it. So really, inquiry is into the one who it arises to. Who is the one in the center? Who is the self? What is self? In Buddhism, they say there's no self. There is nothing there, yeah? Which brings up a big question. Who is the one who's super affected by all of this mental mayhem? It's the sense that you're in the middle, that you are in the middle of all of the contents of your experience. But if your nature is open listening, not attached to anything, then when the head presents the idea of you, there's no you there. It's another appearance of the mental system, which is great because it doesn't tie you to that mental system, yeah? And that's beautiful. Because then when the mental system presents its insane ideas about your relation to everything, then you don't go with it. Because it's not your idea, yeah? It's a conditioned idea. So really the only movement is a negation. Yeah. Or a listening, let's say. Yeah. Somebody's writing stuff in here. Goal is to get back to the zero. Right. You can't erase all memory, so that's not what I'm saying, yeah? Memory, you're not the doer of memory. So whatever erasing all memory means, that's not what happens. That doesn't, because there's no doer of the one who remembers, yeah? It's the sense of being the one who memory arises to. But you're not the one presenting memories. This is not my experience. Yeah. And you can't get back to a 0 point because you've never left a 0 point. It's seeing that what memory and the one that memory arises to is not your nature. To put it in different wording, essentially, whatever is being heard is not what is hearing. This is not about, the message of not to is not about becoming. It's not about getting back to something. It's not about changing memory or getting or doing any of that. It's a message about your nature. You are not of two-ness. So if there's a sense that I am going to get somewhere, that is two-ness right there. There's a sense of me, and then there's a sense of getting somewhere, and that's not going to happen. Because the head, the mental system cannot get back to a 0 point. Whatever 0 point means, I'm not sure. But it's a mental, it's just an appearance within open space, yeah? So we're identified with that appearance. And this is a negation of what comes up. So when it comes to the idea of listening, whatever can be heard is not what is hearing. So whether memory or sensation in the body or thought or the senses pop up, you can hear that. You're aware of those things. So whatever you're aware of is not the awareness, essentially. So it gets negated. This is not about seeing that you're aware of thinking and then, okay, I'm going to change the thinking. This is about seeing thinking or memory come up. Sure, who does that arise to? Me, which is an idea, which you can also hear, so you are also not that. The message, in my experience, this is not about becoming. Becoming failed. That's why these talks happen. Becoming as a body failed. Yeah? Getting back to 0, becoming non-judgmental and that completely failed in the experience of me trying to get somewhere. Meaning me as a body trying to become a non-judgmental body. That really failed. Yeah? What works is seeing that I'm not the body which is judging. And that sits you back into open listening, which is your nature now. Yeah? So the idea of becoming or getting back to 0 or something would be based on the idea that you are what has memory, that you are the body. Yeah? So the idea that the body is going to go back to 0 or become a non-thing is the exact thing that fails. Yeah. So this is a negation of what you see pop up in your experience. But it's good you bring that up because it highlights why we're here in the first place. You can hear your thinking mind when it's thinking. What is being heard is not what is hearing. So what you can hear or what you're aware of is not your nature. That is not you, essentially, yeah? You can hear thinking and you can hear your head go, that's my thinking. Now, if you investigate that inside the body, there is no my aside from the thought. So the system being settled down, like I talk about the Hakuin method quite a bit, is very important in order to get the listening inside the body. And then what is being heard is not what's hearing. So you don't touch what's being heard. So all the thinking and ideas and concepts that you're gaining through the mental system by reading or whatever, that ain't you doing that, essentially. You can hear that. It's like, there's this thing from Jean Klein. Jean Klein, this French dude who was like a big non-duality guy. The waking state, the dreaming state, and the state of the sleeper. So those are like 3 states that you talk about a lot about in Indian philosophy. The waking state, which is right now, the dreaming state, which they're talking about when you're asleep, but this is called the awake dream, what's happening right now, and the state of sleeper, meaning in deep sleep. He says those 3 are superimpositions on pure listening, which has no reference to a listener or to something heard. All states appear in listening. All states appear in listening. All states. So the state of being the one who has memory and the state of being the one who has no memory are states, meaning that those are going to change. Yeah? So the idea that I am going to get back to a 0 point and stay there, that would be a state, and states do not stabilize. So I was trying to become non-judgmental and completely compassionate and stabilize there, but I was going to do that as a dualistic system, meaning a brain and a body, and it can't do it because this is a judgmental system. Yeah? So there might be a time when it's not judgmental, and then it's judging. The next movement is judging. And I could never figure out, and I was getting super frustrated with why I wasn't becoming perfectly non-judgmental all the time. And this message pointed something out. What is trying to become completely compassionate and non-judgmental is not you, nor can that system become that. Because you are the space of open listening in which those states appear and then disappear. Yeah? And it's beautiful because it neutralizes tons of becoming. Because you can see your head constantly trying to become something. Constantly trying to become something. Whether it's a spiritual thing, or it's a CEO, or it's a rich person, or it's a poor person, your head is trying to become something. And as Ramana says, being ourselves reality, you are what you're looking for. So whatever is trying to become ain't you, essentially. That is conditioned movement. Yeah? That is conditioned movement. So a lot of the stuff that is brought up, let's say in the spirituality world, is all about becoming. And that failed. Thankfully that failed me, because otherwise, because the mental wants to keep becoming. It will keep becoming. Yeah? It never stops. This is like how it operates in many ways. That's how we live in the world, by the way. The mental and the body are not bad. You need a dualistic system to operate in this world. But you have to see that what your head is trying to become, it cannot become. And what you wrote there, Brittany, is really, it highlights something. Where we're going to erase all memory, you cannot do that as a body. You as a body, you and I are only memory. Yeah? There is no self. So the idea of Jay is just a memory based on past and future. When this body goes to sleep at night, there's no Jay. Jay is gone. Yeah? Brittany is gone. When the eyes open in the morning, Brittany and Jay are remembered ideas. Beyond an idea, there's no Jay. Yeah? And the idea of me coming and going, because it's based on time, seems very permanent. But this is essentially what the message is highlighting, yeah? That's why in Buddhism they say impermanence. Okay, so the fan is impermanent, the computer is impermanent, yeah? But what is saying, oh, this is impermanent and that is taking itself to be permanent, yeah? And what is saying that? I am. So that I is taking itself to be permanent, but it's a memory, yeah? So how can a memory, a remembered thing, become zero and not memory? It can't do it, yeah? You and me are only remembered. And when we're remembered as a body. Aside from that memory, there is no you and me, yeah? Now that brings a lot of relief to me. I don't know about other people, but to me that's friggin' beautiful. Because it lifts the load of this being a permanent thing that is going to go on forever. This is like, the idea of me is no different than a fart, pretty much. It's a movement through space. Except it's taken very personally by its own mental system. And that will tie you to a lot of craziness. Yeah? That will tie you to a lot of craziness. So Brittany, who is the one who's going to become zero? Who is it? You, yeah? Me. Me. Well, what is that? Is there a me inside the body? Because if you think of if you bring up the statement, what is being heard is not what's hearing, as soon as your head says me, there's something before it which hears it. I mean, that's not rocket science, no? That's pretty obvious. So when your head says me, it sees you as a body. Yeah. Yeah. That's fun. So it's cool to bring that stuff up because it highlights something, yeah? And the head will get super dedicated to certain things. See ya. It will get super dedicated to, it's super invested in stuff. Yeah. It's super invested in things. I gave a talk once, this is a funny story, so I'll tell it. But I was giving a talk once and there was a person there who studied neuroscience or whatever forever, which that stuff's all amazing, the brain science and whatever, yeah. And they said a bunch of stuff for like a while, because they know a lot as far as knowing from a mental system goes, yeah. And they hadn't really met like the message of Advaita or not two. But they talked for a while. And then I just kind of mentioned that, yes, all of that information is cool, but it's based on the idea that you are the body, yeah? It's based on the idea that you are the body. So if you look at what you mentioned before, I'm going to get back to a 0 point, or whatever that thing is. It highlights a very cool thing. That is all based, all of that becoming and getting somewhere is based on the sense of me. And if there's no me, then what am I doing? Yeah? If the sense of me or the thought me is part of the idea of becoming, but there is no me, yeah, then what is all of this movement? So all of the information the neuroscientists knew was interesting, but it's all based on that I'm the brain. So this message is just looking directly at what you are, and what you are, more so at what you are not, yeah? Because you can't know what you are because you're it. Yeah. So open listening, let's say, you can't know that. In many ways, you and I are not going to get non-duality. Non-duality is highlighting what you're not. So what is being heard is not what is hearing. So meaning whatever is being heard gets negated as your nature. But there's nothing at the end where your head goes, oh, okay, I am this. Yeah? Because you are not that which is being heard. And when your head says, I am that, you're not that. Yeah? That's another state, essentially. The head is claiming what it comes in contact, what it thinks it comes in contact with. So it was funny in a way, because they had spent like 25 minutes talking, or 20 minutes talking. And it was like interesting, but that is based on the idea that you are the body, yeah? So they were talking about all of that science in a way of, and then how we're going to change it to make it this way or that way. But it's, all of that wanting to move it and change it is based on the idea that you're it. And this message just simply says you're not that. So, yeah. It's just, that was a funny interaction to me. But it highlights something that kind of is brought up here, is like, okay, now I'm going to do a bunch of stuff to get back to a 0 point. But who is the one who's doing a bunch of stuff? I am. Well, you're not that I. So everything that comes after the I, which is all of the life, let's say, Yeah? It's referencing an I which you're not. And that is like beautiful, man. Because it just like totally lightens the load of also the suffering. Because when my head tells me I'm worthless, who's worthless? I am. Well, I'm not that I. So what is the worthlessness referencing? Itself. It's referencing its own mental movement of which I'm not. Man, that's beautiful. That's like a huge relief. Yeah? Okay. I just thought about that. All right. Okay. High expectations. In this life, but whose life is this? Yeah? You're back on the I. Can you see your head say I? Can you see your head say me? If I say whose life is this, if you're still here, whose life is this? My life, yeah? You can see, right? If I ask you the question, whose life is this? Your answer would be me, yeah? My life. That's right. You can hear, not with your ears, but you can hear your head say my life, yes? Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. So, meet that with the logic of not to. What is being heard is not what is hearing. You can hear your mental system claim life, this life, and say mine, my life. Now, if you settle down inside the body, and then when your head says my, where inside of the body is that my? Is there a thing inside of your body which says mine? Something is claiming this life, these events of this life to be yours. Yeah? It would be very wise to look into that, because everything is based on the idea of you. Everything is based on the idea of you. And if there's a saying like what is being perceived is not what is perceiving, you can perceive your head say my. So something is playing God with the events that are going on and saying that those events are your events. Now, if they're not your events, then they wouldn't be so heavy, yes? Because the people in my life don't seem to bother you. It's the people in your life who seem to bother you. So that idea of me seems to have a huge influence on what's going on in your life, yeah? But you can hear from before that you can hear your head say my life. That should ring a bell in a way. What is being heard is not what is hearing. And if there is no self, then whose life is that? This is inquiry, yeah? If you can hear the mind say that, then you must not be that mind. You must be the hearing of it. And then your head will go, I'm the hearing. Well, you can hear your head claim that. So the root of suffering, let's say, is in the idea of the my. It's in the idea of me. And as Shunryu Suzuki, the great Zen teacher, says, you exist as an idea in your mind. So meaning this life being is life. This is like an event happening. And then my head is going, this is my life. Something is claiming this event to be mine. And because of that my, it gets super uncomfortable because it puts me in the seat of body, which means other. And as soon as body and other, those things are at terms with each other, yeah? And you can hear that from before it. So when we talk about open listening, we're not talking about these listening. Yeah? So that inquiry is right there. There's something claiming that this is your life. And by the way, all of life comes after that idea of my. Otherwise, this is just events happening. So that the idea of my has a huge influence on those events. It makes them very personal. And the interpretation of those events, as good or bad, are taken to be your thoughts as well. This is like what we were talking about before, Kay. Well, this is the thing. You haven't fed a lot into it. The head presupposes you as a me. Meaning, the mental system already has you as a me. Yeah? It's got you in the seat of K. You're not doing that. It's part of the conditioning. It's like the program. The head has you in the seat of me. So this message is pointing something out. It's like Ramana says, presupposing the existence of a non-existent thing. What is he saying is non-existent is you. Because you, the idea of you is an idea. It's not a permanent thing. Yeah? And the open listening thing just works. It's worked for me because it's highlighted. Listening is not attached to anything. It's not thinking. Yeah? It's just listening, open, not grabbing on. So when you say, I have fed so much into it, it's not you that's fed so much into it. You're listening to the mental presentation, which is presupposing you to be that body. But you can hear it, and what is being heard is not what is hearing. That's the thing right there. All right, Robert, just let me go up because somebody else wrote something. Brittany. Hearing, but not that what's hearing. Sleeper. So the state of sleeper or waking state comes from the Upanishads, and they're just both states, yeah? Not that what's hearing, does that mean you're in the state of sleeper or the waking state? Well, those are both states arising in a non-state or an ever-present openness, yeah? None of thoughts are just mental habits that we learned from others. Okay, let them go. If I do a task, is that not me who's... Okay, Robert. So if I do a task, is that not me who is doing that task? In an absolute sense, that's right. Yeah? But because this is a conditioned thing, and it's like we were just saying with Kay, the head has you presupposed to be a body. There has to be some amount of doing, meaning like a method of some sort, and then you put that method down, essentially. So there's doing until there's a sense that you're not the doer, and then you put the doing down. But until there's let's say a deeper knowing of not being the doer, then there's doing taking place. That's why method exists. Essentially, what you're not needs to be turned down a lot. Yeah, that's what spiritual practice or method is for. Now, in my experience, the Hakuin things disentangles you and softens the body and our attachment to the body a lot, so that then inquiry or listening can go internal. Yeah. So there's method, and spiritual inquiry, by the way, is a method. Even Ramana would say self-inquiry is a method, and that method or those methods are to turn down and see what you're not. And once that's been sat back into, the methods are let go of. But in an absolute sense, you are not the one doing the method, nor are you the one who needs the method, because there is no one, which you are. But in order to sit into that, method is needed to see and turn down what you're not. Does that make sense? Because this is important to reiterate, so it's good you bring this up, Robert. There is some schools of thought which say you do not have to do anything. Now, in an absolute sense, there is no you, so any doing is what you're not is doing, yes? But for a huge percentage of the population, meaning most humans, yes, the what you're not as a body and a mind is too loud and it's fragmented. So it needs to be turned down and unified as an individual, and then inquiring into that individual. Otherwise, the mental system grabs onto self-inquiry and it turns it into like a mantra or its next addiction. Yeah? So, in an absolute way, you need do nothing, as they say in the Course of Miracles. Whatever is doing, spiritual method or anything for that matter, is not you. However, most people are too loud mentally, they live too high up in their body, and their listening is like only from the ears, and they're only listening to the mental system. So this, what you're not, needs to be turned down a lot. Yeah? And by the way, doing talks like this and coming to satsang helps turn that individuality down, the volume down. So when I talk about method, I only talk about like 3 things. One is like a relaxation method through the body. The second one is open listening, and the third one is inquiry, and that's it. Yeah. And the chanting things that we do on here are to work on to do the settling and the open listening. Yeah. Yeah. So really, it's seeing what you're not. And when you're doing listening, everything that you can hear, both external sound, sensation, emotion, whatever, anything you can hear, you are not. Yeah? So anything that's heard is not what is hearing. So you don't touch it over time. Yeah. And it progresses like this. And then you come to satsangs and we hit it again. Yep. And then inquiry just does the same thing, because whatever pops up mentally, you say, who does that arise to? Because you can hear the thinking. And then when you say, who does that arise to? The answer comes, me. You can hear that me, so you don't touch that because you're not that. There must be something there which that is arising within, let's say, or through. Yeah. So this isn't really about becoming something. Yeah? This is a seeing of what you're not, or a hearing of what you're not. And in hearing what you're not, that gets more subtle to the point where you see there is no you, which is hearing. There's just open hearing. There's just open listening, yeah? Yeah. Okay, good. Good. And it's the beauty of this to me is it's very simple in the way that there's only one answer. Yeah? So whatever is being heard is not what is hearing. So it's just like when the head pops up, I can hear it. I don't know. It neutralizes every movement over time very fast. And then every time the head goes like this, I gotta, oh, this thing, and that, yeah, you can hear it because you're there ever-present space in which it arises. So whatever arises, you just see it right away in a way. Huh? So thanks for bringing that up, Robert, if you're still here, because there's a lot of stuff where it's like you need do nothing, which in an absolute sense is true because there is no you. So whatever is doing, yeah, you're not doing that because there is no doer. But to really sit into what you are, there has to be some doing usually to turn down the doingness. I don't know if that made sense, but whatever, here we are. So who is it that wants to be freer in life? Okay, that's the investigation, yeah? What wants to be free must feel that it's not free. Yeah? So for there to be a sense that you are not free, that would be based on the idea that there's a freedom to get to. That's a to idea, yeah? I'm not free, so I have to get free. That's 2. You are not that movement. You can hear your head say, I want to be freer. Yeah? So the I, you can hear. The me, the idea me, you can hear. Your head has you as a body, and that is identified with the thought I, or me. You can hear that, which means you are there before it. So what wants to get free isn't you. You can hear it. Yes? You can hear your head say, I want to be free. And it's trying to do something it can't do. And it will continue to try to do that. So you negate, if you can hear it, a negation would not mean I have to kill it or destroy it. It's a simple seeing. Okay, I'm aware of that, which means I must not be it. Yeah? And your head then will go, okay, I am open listening. Well, you can hear your head claim that open listening. So there you are again, not that. Yeah? It's really just seeing everything that's being heard is met with I'm not that. Yeah? That's essentially a method. And then that method gets put down pretty quick. Because as soon as the head pops up, there's a knowing. You don't have to say I'm not that. There's a knowing you're not that. Yeah? And that thing you bring up, I want to live a freer life, that's like one of the biggest presentations. Yeah? The head is always wanting to live freer. Like I've been sober for almost 9 years. My head will present an idea every now and then. I need to get soberer. I haven't drank for 9 years. Yeah? I can't not drink anymore. I can't take possibly less alcohol because there's no alcohol, yeah? But the mental will still go that. It'll still go, I need to be more sober. This is the insanity of this thing, yeah? And this is beautiful too. This is great. The whole message is beautiful. It's like music to me. Because it's so much relief comes from this friggin' thing. This is really nice. It's a true message. It's a true message. And all of the becoming is the head is trying to become something it can't be. And when that movement gets negated as what you are, it stops you in a way. It's almost like the mental system really needs to be friggin' slowed down. It does not need to be sped up with more pushing and stuff like that. It's pushing enough. You don't need the thing, yeah? So this message, whatever's being heard is not what is hearing. You can hear your head make any little move once the listening settles down a little bit. Yeah. You can hear it say, I'm not free, I need to be freer. I need to get more sober. And you can simply meet it with not that, because it's being heard, so it's not what is hearing. Yeah, if you are what you're looking for, Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss, then whatever is thinking it's not that and trying to become that, that must not be you. I mean, that's just basic logic, yeah? So the idea of listening to me is I can just hear my head try to do it. I can hear it from before it. Now, does that take a little bit of investigation? Probably. But it doesn't change the message. And it's a fact. And it's a fact. So when that movement gets negated as what I am, that fact will hold you in a way. And then you will see that your head is playing you in many ways, especially with spiritual practice. It's playing because it's constantly saying, I'm not free and I need to get freer. And Kay, you said something there, just practice the method. In a way, trust the method. If you come to this message of not to, and you try to mentally grapple with it, good luck. It will cook you. The message will not cook you. Satsang, in a way, is part of the method, yeah? Like hearing and sitting in satsang is important. But the mental system, when it tries to grapple and figure out this message, it can't do it. But it will keep trying, and it will just get tied up in the mental, and it will make you more wild. Yeah, it'll make the mental system more wild in many ways. So, yes, inquiry to me is not something that you hear and then that's it. You have to utilize the method. It's like the 12 steps. People go to 12-step meetings and then they're like, my life is still a mess. And it's like, what steps have you done? Well, I haven't done any of them. I just go to meetings. Well, the steps are there to do, yeah? Inquiry is there to do. It's there as a tool until you don't need the tool anymore. Listening meditations are a tool until you see there's no listener. Yeah? But not as an idea. It's a knowledge before mental knowledge. Yes? But to go to a tool shop and see all the tools and then, wow, those are great tools, and then leave the tool shop without buying or taking any of the tools, and then saying something's not working, forget about it. Your head is going to cook you on that. Big time going to cook you. Yeah. So you hear a message and then you put it into your experience. That's why Nisargadatta, if you ever read any of his stuff, he says, what's your experience? What is your experience right now? Yeah? Take the message into your experience. Coming here and listening in a way is a method. Like satsang is a method. Because when you hear this message being said, let's say, you can see it, what it's talking about happening right now, yeah? That's not you mentally figuring it out. You're seeing what's being said in a way. But the method has to be taken outside. You can see your real nature. It's like the story of the lion in India. There's a baby lion who gets lost from the pack, and then it sees a bunch of sheep, and it starts to travel with the sheep, yeah? And then because it's traveling around with the sheep, it starts to take itself as being a sheep. So it starts living a sheep's life in many ways. And then about a year goes by, and then there's an adult lion who hunts the pack of sheep. And while he's chasing the pack of sheep, he sees the baby lion running away like it's a sheep, yeah? So then the adult lion goes over and grabs the baby lion and takes it over to a water hole and puts its head over the water hole and says, you're a lion, not a sheep. Yeah? So at that point, the baby lion would see, oh, I'm a lion. Yeah? It's like when you come to these talks and you hear the message and then you see your head going off, you can see, oh, I'm not that head. I see what's being said there. There's a listening, an open listening, which seems to know I'm not that head. Yeah? So that's like the baby lion. It sees in the pond, oh, I am a lion, I'm not a sheep. Yeah? So in a way, that's the message. But the thing is, when the adult lion goes away, the head of the baby lion is still operating on sheep mode. Yeah? So the realization that it's a lion only lasts like 3 seconds, and then the head comes back in and says, no, you're a sheep. And that if the baby lion is taking itself to be that mental system, it's living a sheep's life when really it's a lion. You understand? So yeah, the message needs to be put into method in many ways. When the mental system pops up, you can hear it, so you're not it. Yeah?